Welcome back to the first Trilogy Harvesters Digest of 2022. Sitting with me today is Jenny Rogers, our quality manager.
Hi, everyone.
And we're going to talk about what's kind of going on with the corn crop here in the United States so far. So we do have some planting going on, and it seems like in Texas it might be a little further along. Do you want to tell us where the corn situation is looking like in Texas?
Absolutely. So it looks like on these USDA crop reports, Texas is moving well into the silking stage. So southern states like Texas or anything else that, or any other states down south are already well into the silking stage. And we just want to take a second to talk about why the silking stage is important for mycotoxins and our industry. So for anyone that doesn't know, the silking stage is essentially the catalyst for the kernel formation on the stalk. So when it's silking, that kernel is going to be starting to form, which is so important to mycotoxins because mycotoxins come from molds that are already present in the field. So if that mold strain, that particular mold strain is in there, it's in your crop, when that kernel is forming, that's how the mold begins and starts to get into those kernels.
Right.
So that's just so important. And that weather pattern, those weather patterns play such a huge role for mycotoxin formation because they are formed from those mold strains. So it's really important to be watching during that silking stage. So silking is moving north right now. Like we said, we're in it in
Right.
Texas. So
Yep.
moving a little further north, it seems like we have a bit of drought conditions in Nebraska. So Jordan, can you talk a little bit about precipitation and what's going on drought-wise in Iowa and Nebraska and how that relates to mycotoxin formation?
Right, and that's some really great information, Jenny. If you're looking at Nebraska right now, we're actually going in quite a bit of a drought. And so in Nebraska, typically the corn state, that's kind of their thing, right? And but they're going to have a lot of drought. And so unless they get some precipitation to come through in the next couple of months, they could be looking at aflatoxin. And as we know, when you have aflatoxin, it's usually hot and dry conditions, right?
Yes.
But if you really kind of look at the monitor this year, it's actually kind of interesting because you can kind of draw a line from the Dakotas down to eastern Texas. And on the western side of that, you have quite a bit of drought. But on the eastern side of that, we've had plenty of precipitation this year that we haven't had in years past, right? So if you're looking anywhere from Missouri to Pennsylvania, which is a really kind of the heart of the Corn Belt, they've had plenty of precipitation, and actually that can be cause for other mycotoxins. So in Nebraska, we have some drought, but in Iowa, we might actually see a little bit of a different mixed bag. You go right across the border and you might see more DO1 and fumonisin because it's been wet, it's been a little bit cooler. Fumonisin sometimes grows in a little hotter conditions, but that may happen here in the next month or two. But as that happens, DON, fumonisin, and zearalenone could be just right across the border. So it's always interesting to pay attention to those kind of drought monitors.
Absolutely, and it's just so interesting how it's almost a complete straight line down the
really
center of the U.S. right now.
Right.
So that's Iowa, Nebraska. We want to just take a second maybe and talk about locally what we're seeing because, we get to see this in person. So in our areas, kind of conditions in that the St. Louis region is having.
Right. So we're out of the St. Louis area, and if you drive a mile down the road, you can see corn has been planted, right? So we are definitely right in the middle of some of that. This year, it's been a little bit of a difficulty for farmers to plant. And I say that because Missouri has seen quite a bit of precipitation as well, as we just talked about with that drought monitor, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so what happens is when you get a lot of rain on those fields, it can create a crust on the top. And if it's real windy, like we've had the last couple of days here, we've had some wind come through, you really can create that crust, and it's really difficult for that emergence to happen. And so what's happening in our fields right now is you have emergence at completely different levels, right? So you have some that you can barely see, and you can see that within the field, right? So you have some that are very short and some that are quite a bit taller.
Oh, yeah, visually.
When that happens, it's usually going to lend itself to DON because ear rot later on in the facilitation of that plant, right? Ear rot can start to happen, and that's generally when some of those molds can really start to seep in and get in there and do some damage. So we're going to have a kind of a mixed bag all over the United States this year.
Interesting weather.
It is. It very is. And so, Jenny, tell me about what would somebody be able to do if you're a quality manager and you're worried about kind of what could be a mixed bag, and you may not know where some of this corn is coming from. What do you do in your facility to try to help protect yourself against what might be a multi-mycotoxin year?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great, especially looking at these weather patterns that we're seeing this year. All these areas are probably getting really amped up, getting ready for harvest, and that one of those things that they need to be taking into account is a very sound quality system. You need to have those quality parameters. What are you testing? How are you testing? And action plans in place for how you're going to manage if you are getting positives and what to do in those instances, because everybody needs to have be on the same page and know what to do in those cases. So what we recommend is having a really sound quality system, action plans for regulatory limits and things like that. But a lot of times people may not have that information or that knowledge. So if you are, if you don't have those in place right now, if you're interested in getting some of that information, you can always reach out to any one of the people here at Trilogy or our customer service. We are always happy to help and give guidance on how to handle those situations and to help you set that quality system in place. We really excel. We have some great experts here, so we always really want to urge you, just don't hesitate to reach out to us. We really excel in this area.
Well, and we've decided this year to start a quality tour, and the quality tour, from my understanding, is going to be anybody that has any questions. If this is interesting to you and you're thinking, oh, I really want to work on that, or maybe I need to work on that in my facility, reach out to us about the quality tour. And what the quality tour is it's an ability for somebody to get a free consult on what they might need help with in their location, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You can talk to any Trilogy expert. We'll be able to reach out and go from there.
Yeah, so just don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to help you out, and we'd love to help set a quality program in place that you can use and implement, and something realistic. That's what we always say. We want to make our plans.
It's got to be practical.
It's got to be practical.
Right.
We understand the importance of that.
So with that in mind, thank you for the first Harvester's Digest, and
Yeah.
we'll be back for another one.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to click off 2022.